and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. On today's show, if you're a tween, a teen, or a parent or grandparent of one, this show is for you. We're talking about money advice for young people, advice to give them real skills for real life. And my guest is an expert on the topic. She is a trailblazer in the Canadian financial planning world. She is a certified financial planner, chartered investment manager, media personality, founder of the New School of Finance, sought after speaker, and winner of multiple awards in the field of finance. She's also the best-selling author of Worry Free Money, Living Debt Free, and No Regret Decisions, Making Good Choices During Difficult Times. And she joins me today to talk about her latest book, Making Bank, Money Skills for Real Life, which is being described as the definitive young reader's guide to tracking, saving, spending, enjoying, and growing money. Shannon Lee Simmons, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Before we get into talking about your newest book, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and your background in the world of finance?
Yeah, so I have been on the front line of financial planning for 20 years now. I've always done it ever since I even graduated university. It was just something I loved to do. And I used to work on Bay Street dealing with wealth management with high net worth clients. And then I left to do sort of fee-only financial planning, which is what I do. That's what pays my bills every day. And then through that, I think what's fascinating to me about money is the people part. Like I never really loved the let's analyze a company and pick a stock part of it. I loved the how are you going to afford your life? And you want to do these things, how can we make that happen? And that's financial planning, which is my deep passion. So that's what I've been doing. And over 20 years, and it's because we do fee only advice, we get to see people from all walks of life because there's no investment minimum or you don't have to be a certain wealth bracket to talk to us. So we have people who are do I need to go to a consumer proposal all the way through to I have a trust fund and everything in between. So it's been really fun. It's been a really good ride.
Well, you've definitely been busy. You're a very prolific author with, it looks like 4 books now in your repertoire.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about your most latest one here in a minute because you definitely position yourself to be an expert in the world of finance, and you've had great success with your previous book. And we now know Making Bank, your latest project, is already now a bestseller, which is wonderful news.
Yes.
So the audience for this newer book is more young people, tweens, teens. Why did you decide to focus on that particular demographic?
Thank you for asking this question. This is a great question. It's very strange that I did this out of nowhere. However, it started organically a few years ago. I have clients through New School Finance who were saying, I can't stay on our financial plan because my teenager is constantly asking for money and they want to do all these things and we have no boundaries and I don't know what to do. Can you help? Can you sit down with my teenager and map something out? So it started as this sort of offshoot. And then I very quickly realized, it happened enough times, I very quickly realized that this demographic, this cohort of teens and the ones that will come up below them are extraordinarily unique. And they're up against a set of challenges, which no wonder parents are stressing out. It is so different for this demographic than ever before. We have unprecedented things happening. And for example, this is a cohort who's never seen their parents really use money. Right? They grew up with tap technology. I remember going to a bank with my dad on a Friday and he would have a bank book and then he would take out money and then he would give it to the pizza man. You saw the transaction from getting it to there. So they don't see it in a grocery store. They don't see it anywhere. And so even the concept of money is so different. And I was intrigued and all in, and they have good questions, really young. And I was I see something I can help with and I want to immediately. And that's where it was born. And then the book idea was born. And then after there was a book deal, then I did 2 years of research and I was working with teenagers, interviewing them, making budgets with them for the last 2 years. And as I was writing this book, so it was a wild ride on the side. I did that of my regular life.
So you mentioned there about parents being stressed.
Yeah.
So there was a recent survey from TD it said that 58% of Canadian parents say they frequently worry about their child's future.
Yeah.
89% agree they would feel more confident about it if their child had improved financial knowledge before their teenage years.
Yep.
And 66% are not highly confident in their children's financial knowledge for their current age. So it's obvious, I think, that your book is timely, and the demographic, I think, is spot on. It's getting that education at a younger stage. Now, your approach to writing this latest book, I think, is very unique. You teach your money lessons through a series of conversations, helpful guides. My verbiage, I would call them almost case studies. That's my academic background. So why did you choose that approach when writing this latest book?
So for me, when I was working with these teenagers, I'm having hundreds and hundreds of conversations, and you hear the same thing over and over again. Everyone thinks that they're saying something that's like really custom to their life, and it is in a way, but it's the same fundamental underlying situation, whether it's a problem, conflict with parents, whether it's not really knowing how to make money feel real, whether it's a risk appetite when you're 14 and you want to day trade, whether it's gambling, which is like all of these things I saw coming up over and over, and I'd be like, that's a storyline. That's a storyline. And the conversations were similar. And so I also, one of the big pieces of feedback for me while I was working with the kids was that while they're learning this in school now, which I'm thrilled about because I certainly didn't when I was in school, it doesn't feel applicable. It feels like textbooky. And so in order to solve this problem or this like bridge that gap, I wanted to make the book endlessly readable, a real page turner. And so there's 4 characters that sort of go, and they sort of represent these like consistent themes I saw and the struggles and the wins that the teens that I was working with have, so that they can read it fast. It's conversational, right? So it's like bop, bop, bop. It doesn't feel like you're like learning. And then they're also using their examples so that tomorrow when they want to go to Starbucks, or if they want to buy something at Sephora, or if they want to buy skins online, like whatever the thing they want to buy, it's like they can implement this stuff tomorrow at like the school cafeteria, instead of it being this sort of like broad strokes, economic long view, which to them, I learned, doesn't feel real or super applicable, with good reason. So I really wanted to make it fun to read, entertaining, and applicable, like tomorrow.
I love that. I think that's a great strategy for that age group. And obviously that came out of all of the research that you've been doing with the teenagers that you've been helping along the way, and the stories that they've been able to tell you.
Yes.
From that research, what are some of the biggest challenges that youth are facing today when it comes to their finances?
I think there's so many different, and they're new, right? So I mean, the things that have never changed, that like teenagers or teenage brain is teenage brain, and I think that's what makes them so special. But I think what's new and what is freaking everyone out is that, number one, as I said earlier, they've never seen money. So this concept of money, there's a reason I think that parents are feeling like their kid doesn't really understand money, even at like age 15, 16. And it's because like they grew up without really seeing it, right? Like how can you have a sort of grasp of something you never really get to see? It's almost like points in a game system. Number one. Number two, I couldn't agree more with, I didn't know that survey about teenagers. So like, I couldn't agree more that there's an importance here. There's almost like a real need to do this before they turn 18. And this is unprecedented as well. They already have phones, but they are going to get access to credit cards with tap technology which is hard enough for my adult clients, let alone a teenage brain at 18, and gambling and investment accounts from their phone. When I turned 18, if I wanted to buy a stock and go long on a penny stock and put all my savings in there, there's a real barrier to me to do that. I had to go to a location, I had to fill out paper. You can do it from your phone while you watch Netflix now. This has never happened before. And so what I really wanted to get across with this book is that they have financial literacy, or they're learning it, but now let's practice it before we turn 18, so that when you turn 18 and you get all the access to the whole world in the palm of your hand, you are like, I got this. I fully understand how to manage debt I fully understand what investing actually is and versus long shot gambling. And I know how to handle gambling because that's also something that is very appealing to make money right now really quick, which is a popular theme amongst the youth that I was working with. And so I've never been more like, parents, take heed, get like 18 is, and because if they're going to fail, let them fail now when the stakes are quite low versus learning these skills the hard way from 18 to 23, which I'm already seeing with some of my like client, like parents who are sending their kids who are like 22 and they're already so much in credit card debt because can you imagine buy here tapping when you were 18, 19 years old on a credit? Like it's so unfair. It's unfair.
Well, in your book, you talk about these 5 critical money skills.
Yes.
And it's skills that are supposed to guide them not only now, but of course into the future as things change. Can you walk us through what those 5 skills are?
Yeah, this comes from like being on the front line of financial planning for 20 years. I saw this with my super wealthy clients, the same skills, and all the different clients I see every day. It doesn't matter if people are up against the wall or they're super wealthy. We all need these skills. And so if these kids can practice these skills before 18, it doesn't matter how their life is life is going to throw them some weird things. They have the skills on how to manage their own resource, right? It's really resource management. This is what it is, but money is our resource. The first is tracking, which sounds so boring, but like so many times I was like, okay, well, what do you make? I don't know. They don't even know how to make, they don't know what they make. So because they're gig economy workers. So I was like, let's figure it out. So it's like literally walking kids through how to figure out like, what do you make? You know what I mean? And how do you figure that out in a real way? Because you can't make a budget and you can't make a plan and you don't know if you can afford it if you don't know what you make. The second one is saving, obviously. And that seems obvious to everyone, but the work that really has to happen is just the habit of saving, the act of saving. That's what parents want to see. They don't care about an amount. They don't care about 50, what percent. It's the act of you got some money and you didn't spend it all and you're waiting. This is a skill, that's a habit that we need to build in kids, that sort of delayed gratification. And the third is obviously budgeting, because once you've put a section of your money aside, you got to figure out how to live within it without going to mom and dad and being like, I ran out of money. And then 4 is enjoying. And I think this one is lost. A lot of adults have this issue and sort of kids like, there is money to be spent on stuff you like. Like, don't let anyone shame you. If you want your primer at Sephora, like go get it. You know what I mean? If you can afford it, like go have at it, boss. Like, you know what I mean? And how to not feel guilty about that and have a good relationship with money. And the last one is to grow your money. And this is where I spend a lot of time talking about risk tolerance, time horizon, and gambling versus like alternative investments and how to do that safely.
Well, you made a sort of a comment a little bit earlier about how younger people are getting more access to all of these different resources that we didn't have when we were kids. It is all literally on our phone.
Yeah.
We tap everything that we pay for. We have access to perhaps sites that we don't have the maturity perhaps to be able to manage in that sort of age bracket. So we're going to break into that, of course, after the break when Money Matters returns.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Mark your calendar, Southbury. Your new go-to Metro is opening May 8th at Maple View Drive in Yonge Street. From fresh Ontario produce to bread baked in-store daily. Join us on May 8th for the great grand opening deals. Visit metro.ca for more details.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is Shannon Lee Simmons, certified financial planner, chartered investment manager, founder of the New School of Finance, and best-selling author of Worry-Free Money, Living Debt-Free, and No Regret Decisions, Making Good Choices During Difficult Times. And her latest book, Making Bank, Money Skills for Real Life, is now available and is already a bestseller. So if you have a tween or a teen in your life and want to see or want them to succeed financially, this book is worth picking up. And Shannon, before the break, we talked about the 5 money skills that you say will guide youth when it comes to finances, whether it's earning, saving, and spending, of course. And there's another topic that you address in your book, and that's the ability to talk about money, to communicate your needs, your wants. And you say that teaching youth to talk about money confidently and competently is key to their future success. So why is that communication so important for young people?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on this in the Enjoy Your Money chapters, and that's basically establishing a good fundamental relationship with money. And so being on the front line of financial planning over the years, you see the people who you see things, right? People tell you stories, and people who sort of grew up without money being like a topic or a taboo, or there's shame in the house, like they carry that into adulthood. And money, instead of it being this tool in our life that we can talk about in the same way you talk about groceries, there's a whole bunch of feelings that are wrapped up in it. And life is going to throw all of us lemons. You're going to have to pivot financially multiple times in your life. That is normal. And so if you're not confident in talking about what's good, what's bad, what's working, what's not, that can lead to future problems with other partners, fights about money, fights with children about money, like all this. I had lots of parents when I was writing this book say, I can hear myself passing on my money trauma to my children. Like I hear myself talking about money, how I'm describing, no, it's not the way I'm like, I don't want to say these things, but like, I can't help it. It's so wrapped up in everything about money with me. And so I feel like if we can get in there, this is when they're learning it. So and I have kids too. When they're younger, yes, for sure, they're watching everything. But when they make their own money and they want their own things, that's when conflict is rife. And that's also when you teaching them as a parent is like, they're open to like, what is this whole money game all about? And it's an opportunity for teaching too. And so why I think it's important is that when the stakes are low, as I said before, where they're in junior high, high school, they can't get into too much trouble. There's no debt, there's no investment accounts yet from their phone. They can sort of practice talking about money, what's good, what's bad, detaching themselves emotionally from it. So it's not a measure of self-worth. I think that's very important as well. And then learning how to ask for what you want, because think about the skills we need as adults. We need to be able to confidently like ask for a raise and then handle it when we don't get it. Like, or you know what I mean? And like, why am I entitled to that or not entitled to that? Like what makes that okay? Number 2, if you're disagreeing with a parent, like how can you both kind of chill out and talk about it? And one of the cool things about this book that's happened that I didn't anticipate is that parents have said that they've read it alongside of their, like at the same time, like their kids reading it, they're reading it too. And they're utilizing some of the strategies to like renegotiate financial boundaries in the households, which has been so cool for me to hear that, because otherwise it's fighting. And then it's become this whole thing. So the book is written for the kids. I'm on the kids' side, but I'm also a parent, and nobody wants to fight about money. So I just think it's like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a generation of kids who, when they got their investment accounts and credit cards, they like were confident and empowered about finances versus learning for the first time? Oh, what a dream.
I totally agree with you. And of course, you mentioned earlier as well, part of growing up is having successes, but also there's going to be some failures because that's how we learn and that's how we grow.
Yep.
And you say that this is also important when it comes to our finances, how we manage our money. And you note that money mistakes made by youth could serve as valuable lessons for their financial future. So what is your advice to parents about allowing our kids to make those financial, maybe not so good decisions?
Yeah, it's all about guardrails. And so I would say anyone who has somebody who's under the age of 18, like the trouble they can get in is more emotional than anything, right? Like it's about not, where I find the trouble before 18, when there's not financial stakes that are real life consequences, it's more like, okay, you save this because I'm not paying for this thing for you to go to, or this concert or whatever it is. And then kid doesn't save, and then they can't go to the concert, and then they're begging, and then the parent feels like a jerk, and everyone's upset because they haven't learned the lesson, but also the parent doesn't want them to miss out on the thing. So it's mostly emotional consequences before 18. So the parenting tip there is like a lot of this can be avoided to get to that place where there's a big fight or a big blow up and everyone feels like they've lost what they were trying to do, was sort of like proper planning from the get-go. So that's what the book also tries to help with, is like mapping it out a little bit so that there's no surprises. I think surprises in the world of money is the worst case scenario. So like doing that instead of just assuming your kid is doing it, or like avoiding the talking about it as that sort of deadline is coming, number one. And number two, once they're older, if they are above 18 and the failures or sorry, actually, I'm going to pause that for a second, going back to that. And if you've mapped it out fairly and you've given them lots of warning and you've tried to support and they still fail and they can't go to the concert or they can't do the whatever it is, I do think that, this is so harsh, but I'm also a parent, so parents bear with me on this. Like every now and then you got to just be like, that's real life. Like that's the consequence. I think it's unfair when it comes as a surprise that you're going to be hardcore. But if it's been mapped out from the get-go and everyone's clear and there's like a contracted deal, you didn't do the thing that you were contracted to do. We had a verbal contract multiple times, like that's real life. And I think parents need to be braver to do that sometimes because it really feels like you're emotionally hurting your kid. But as long as it's not, too severe, I think sometimes those natural consequences are like what we need, because those natural consequences are going to help later when the consequences would be like a terrible credit score where you can't ever rent an apartment, or you take all your savings and put it on a penny stock that doesn't go anywhere, or get caught up in a stock meme and you lose it all. Like those are real life failure consequences, or like that, or like a scam or something like that. So I feel like permission given to like let them fail, but it's only not unkind when you give them lots of, everyone knows the consequences and they still didn't do it anyways. That's what makes it fair.
So it's interesting because you mentioned as well that not only, yes, this book is written and geared towards tweens and teens, but it also has those benefits for us as parents.
Yeah.
Can you help about, or just talk about what kind of benefits you're seeing from the parent side of things from the content in your book?
Yeah, this has been a very exciting thing on the side. I think it is giving permission for parents to like draw some boundaries and decide for themselves, how do I want to support my kid? And how can I do that in a way that is supporting, but also protecting what we're doing here, right? Like where's that line in the sand? And so if everyone's using the same language and everyone's using the same tools, parents that I've been working with have been able to like de-escalate conflict, stick to their guns when it's important, and support the kid in not missing the deadline, right? Like whatever they decide to do, if they're mapping out a plan, there's a big thing they want to buy. A lot of parents have said, okay, fine, you save this, I'll match it, but you got to do it by this deadline. So like this has been a tool that I use a lot in the book as well, as like a motivating thing. And we motivate kids to save by giving them what they want. These kids don't care about retirement, and nor should they. They're like 15. So like they care about sneakers. They care about the thing that's like $200 that they can't afford. So like that has been a really good way to harness what do you want, and then use that as like the carrot to get them to actually practice the habit of saving. And so that has been a really fun thing. The conversations around money are getting just less heated, right? It's more about an activity that they're going through versus me versus you. You're right, I'm wrong. That whole dynamic that can happen with parents, it happens to all of us because we all know better and we think we do, and so does the teenager. So everybody thinks they know better. So this is sort of like a third party. It's unbiased, and it's an activity that you're doing together. So I also, the feedback from teens as well that I've had from this has been, okay, what was stressful before is that I just kept asking for money randomly. So every time I asked for money, even if it was $20, I got like the whole talk. And the parent was like, yeah, because I never know when it's going to happen. And it's like, okay, so of course that's stressful. So like, I don't actually mind giving $20, but it's like, I'm actually commenting on the fact that you don't have any concept of money. So now it's helped that. So it's like, hey, I'm just going to give you $50 or $40 or whatever it is. And then you can't ask me for more. Like, you're going to get this on this date and you can't ask me for money. And the kid's like, oh, thank God. Now at least I know what I'm going to get. And the parent's like, great. Now I can say no without guilt. And perfect.
So it's interesting because you're just talking about, as parents, we have our own financial insecurities. And passing that on, to our kids is obvious. It's not what we want,
No.
but it seems to be maybe our default setting, maybe.
Yes, of course.
Do you have any advice for parents about trying to leave behind those negative financial habits?
I mean, I'm biased. I'm like, read the other 3 books. But I feel like with most things in life, mindfulness is the answer, right? I think where sort of passing on that financial baggage is I don't want to say harmful, but just like not ideal, is when you're not even aware you're doing it, right? So you're just saying whatever, and like a lot of the kids, like, these are my words, not necessarily theirs. Whatever, their parents always think what they want to buy is stupid, right? Because they're like, why are you spending $8 on a coffee? Oh my God, you only make $30. Like, you're spending a third of your paycheck on a drink. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's all well-intentioned. Everything that a parent is doing is like pretty well-intentioned, but you would never say that to a colleague or a friend. I know it's your kid, but like, just think about there's still another person that you're like, what you're doing is dumb, right? So I think just being mindful about how you're saying stuff is really important. And sometimes checking yourself, like, would I say this to a friend? And if it's not something you'd say to a friend, like, I'm not saying don't talk about it, but try to find a different way to say it that doesn't feel so shaming or so blaming. Like, try to do that. And I think that's what that book can help with, is like detachment from like your own value system coming out of your mouth. So I think there's that. And then also, if you mess up, just say sorry. Like, be honest. Yeah, I have a lot of money stuff, and it's hard for me to watch you do that. And I'm like trying my best. And you know what? Teenagers are going to be like, wow, thanks. Like, you are modeling how to deal when you mess up and you do something you're not super proud of. And you have a perfect opportunity to teach them how to deal with something that they did that they are not super proud of, and how to make it right.
It's interesting, that communication part. I literally have a vivid memory. I'm going to say around 10 years old, heading into sort of those tween years.
Yeah.
And I have a vivid memory of my parent coming to me and having a frank discussion about what the family financial situation was. And it's burned in my brain.
Yes.
Now, of course, I still make my own mistakes with my kids, but I think opening up that communication, I think, is so important. And of course, now we've had so much good information. So Shannon, thank you so much for being here. How can people connect with you, and most importantly, get your book?
Well, they're at all major retailers in Canada, so you can find them there. They're all the big ones, and also like potentially even local independent bookstores. So check there as well. And then our site is newschooloffinance.com, and I'm also on social media at Shannon Lee Simmons. So you can find me there. I'm on the internet, so you can come find me.
Thank you so much again for being here and sharing all this great information. And I also want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.